What if chaos spawns aren't the problem, but enrage is? I just had a shower thought that maybe the chaos spawns just exacerbate the problems we already had with the enrage mechanic. A staggerable chaos spawn isn't really an issue, but an enrage one does so much damage on top of not being interruptible, maybe that's actually what catches people off guard. I think this is a fair way to look at chaos spawns. Now, we all know chaos spawns have recently been nerfed, and in my experience, you can still see a fair amount of chaos spawns basically spawning together, which is what they were aiming to nerf. They really did not want a whole pack of chaos spawn to just, show up out of thin air, essentially. However, what I've noticed is the game will still, it's basically just one less chaos spawn per spawn. So you have to keep in mind that if there's 3 spawns and you get 2 chaos spawn for each spawn, basically the teleporter with chaos, that's 6 chaos spawns. Dude, seriously, if, in my opinion, the chaos spawns are turning into some of the worst enemies to deal with in the game just because of how weird they are. I have been playing pretty well with the fencing bulwark. I've been using the fencing power sword, and chaos spawn immediately get parried, gun strike. That's fine. What really starts to be the issue is when chaos spawn are just placed within like a Terminator or something like that. Like, I would rather fight 3 Terminators than 2 Terminators and 1 chaos spawn. In my opinion, that's pretty much how I feel about chaos spawn. So I do think they have a fair point about the enrage mechanic here, and obviously the chaos spawn having extra power armor. Or, sorry, hyper armor. Yeah, let's not put any power armor on chaos spawn. But yeah, seriously, the chaos nerf, I feel like, didn't really do anything, at least in my opinion, because you really don't need that many chaos to cause an issue as far as, lining up the right parries, the right dodges, and everything like that. But yeah, I do admit, if you can just stagger the chaos spawn, they are a lot easier to deal with. Making sure that you have good burst damage that doesn't come from a crit shot is pretty huge against chaos spawns. So yeah, definitely wanted to bring back the discussion about chaos spawns, especially since they have been nerfed. I do think they have a fair point about the enrage mechanic here. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. And yeah, let's see how the community feels about this. I can tell you from doing normal stratagems that they'll hyper armor your melee attacks and force you to parry or dodge even when they're not enraged. There are certain attacks that you really should dodge away. Like their blast attack, I think it's pretty hard to trade with, but they do have that tornado thing, like when they spin around. I found that just throwing a regular grenade at them during that moment really does make sure that you put them in a stunned state. So, and that's where you follow up with melee attacks and everything. But yeah, you can only throw so many grenades, but to be completely honest, the amount of tacticals I've seen in hard stratagems not use secure stockpile, I'm starting to think some people just, they underestimate some of these meta perks and why they're meta. Like, sure, you don't need secure stockpile if you run into 10 chaos spawns in one mission. Just one mission, 10 chaos spawns. However, if you run into 40 chaos spawns, you're probably going to need secure stockpile. That's pretty much how it works. I think they do stagger if they're not actively attacking, kind of like the Tyranid warriors. For me, the problem is trying to parry dodge a 5 or 6 person horde of them with arms and tentacles and claws all flaring around in one giant massive meatball, and I can't tell what is even going on. Add in rubric bolter fire, Zangor and Lighten spinning around you, sniper cultists, and sometimes missile or Gatling gun barrages from a Terminator, while this giant massive flesh is barreling towards you, and I might as well lay down the controller. This is my issue anyway. It might get better the more I learn how to deal with these things. It could very well be a skill issue, but it is hard to learn in all the chaos, no pun intended. Okay. Yeah, I mean, outside of the pun, yeah, it's definitely very true that chaos got a lot more chaotic. You may be onto something, cousin. I have noticed that the chaos spawn are usually manageable, but sometimes they just destroy me. It could very well be the enrage mechanic. Does the enrage show on chaos? What's the visual indicator? Okay, so just to answer that question, it's kind of like a bluish purple aura, something like that, right? It is honestly kind of hard to notice when there's a lot of enemies because it's chaos. They are pretty flashy. But yeah, that's basically how you can tell if they are enraged. But yeah, the chaos spawn, and honestly, I do like centering the topic around the enraged chaos spawn specifically, because it does make sense why an enraged chaos spawn could potentially be the strongest enraged enemy in the game, potentially. I have seen some people think Tyranid Devourers are still pretty close, but I guess it depends on your class, of course. So, yeah, I mean, dude, I would love to see Chaos Spawn maybe get adjusted again, but at the same time, I do think we have the tools necessary to deal with the Chaos Spawn, but not everybody uses them. Not everybody understands secure stockpile. I've seen people run physiology in these daily stratagems. Okay, yeah, actually, now that we're on the topic, we can talk about the reliquary, the daily reliquary. That mission, oh boy, that is a hard mission, and I swear, I've maybe, when it comes to random queues, I had a fair amount of good pushes with it, but I've noticed the good pushes all have the same stuff. Like, pretty much I was jumping in with Bulwark, so if we had a sniper on my team without squad renewal, instant, like, honestly, we needed squad renewal so much more than anything else snipers would be using for their team perk, at least in my opinion. But yeah, if I don't see squad renewal, if there's no unmatched zeal, bonds of brotherhood, secure stockpile, that sort of thing, every time in the new daily reliquary, that it was basically less health and double ammo. It was pretty rough. Every time it would be an instant death. Like, seriously, if somebody would queue in without one of those meta perks, they would die every fight. The amount of times where it's like, okay, I have one good teammate, but this other teammate is jumping in without a meta build. Nah, it's rough. It is definitely pretty rough. And not to mention, like, the one thing about Reliquary that I want to talk about also is people using Meltas for the entire mission and then keeping the Melta for the boss fight. We definitely should be switching out right at the end of that boss fight. But yeah, I honestly can't really say much because I was jumping in as a Bulwark, healing and everything. I was getting some good banners. But yeah, I mean, definitely that all of the Reliquary missions that I've been playing, it's so insane how it's like, oh man, Extremist spawn, it's not too worrying. Oh god, I got hit by one Chaos spawn, and then yeah, everything just goes down the drain. Enrage seems to give full HP, which makes Enraging Majorist very annoying. After emptying 3 cartridges of Plasma Pistol and 2 Gun Strikes out of all of the Majors spawned, of course the one you keep hitting gets full HP back and resist stuns. Okay, I see what he's saying. Yeah, you can just empty in a whole bunch of ammo, not get the job done. At the very last second, they enrage, gain all of that HP back. Yeah, that's rough. And then resist stun. Yeah, definitely rough. Dude, yeah, see, that's the thing about Chaos Spawn. If you just have one enraged Chaos Spawn, there's so much in that fight that is so hard to predict. I really think when you're fighting Chaos, we need to think of... It really does become like a DPS check of how fast it can take out enemies. Because, yeah, seriously, if you have a few Terminators show up, it's really not that big of a deal until there's one Chaos Spawn, and now you're dodging out of the way of things that you normally wouldn't really need to dodge just because it's enraged. I get it. That is definitely something that could be rough. But, I mean, ultimately, the Chaos Spawn, I have been parrying a little bit better. It's not... I keep going back and forth with if they're too tanky or not, but I still think maybe it is the enrage mechanic making the Chaos Spawn worse than they are, essentially. This could be a pretty well aged take, because I know people had issues with enrage mechanics for a while, and it is kind of wild how the enemies essentially have more stun resistance than the players. Sometimes. I mean, it really depends, but you can stun lock enemies as well, but we can stun lock probably a little bit easier than Chaos Spawn, maybe. I don't know, maybe the devs should really double think the enrage mechanic on the hyper armor, possibly. But yeah, I mean, ultimately we're gonna have to hear from you guys and how you feel about that one. 3 separate Chaos Spawns, 3 different attack sequences. That's literally all there is to it. Okay, on this topic, as far as like which Chaos Spawn people are getting better with, I think the claw guy with the horns, he's probably the easiest to deal with. I think, honestly, nothing is worse than a Chaos Spawn hitting you that you didn't see coming, that just like jumped out of nowhere. So it's interesting. A lot of this does come down to awareness. The only trick part is being surrounded and identifying which is which when they're attacking. Oh yeah, that's fair. That's also fair. Yeah, it's very hard to tell that one. No, dude. Honestly, when it comes to chaos spawns, with fencing weapons, I've been fine with. With balanced weapons, they are so much worse. They are so much worse. Like if I'm using the Xenoblade, against chaos spawn, the assault class have been great at like one-shotting groups of them, which is nice. But like with the bulwark, I'm probably not using the Xenoblade. I likely would be using the fencing power sword, just for easier parries. Not everyone can just get good, but everyone can show a little patience and succeed. Same with the hard stratagems. People complain all day long, but they're 100% doable if you have the patience. Dude, I wish... Like, here's the thing about being patient in this game. It really depends on how you're approaching those fights, because with Chaos Spawn specifically, I feel like, sure, it's fine to be patient, but there's always a chance where there's just one extra Chaos Spawn that will just pop in the middle of the fight, and then, sure, I guess you can stay patient, maybe, get some parries and everything like that, but eventually, there's definitely going to be something that catches you off guard, and I feel like playing patiently is fine, but sometimes you got to improv, man. Sometimes this stuff takes a little bit of trial and error, and you have to understand what tricks you can pull out at the last second, especially considering parries. Yeah, like if I wasn't using fencing, there would be a lot of times when I'm getting hit by stuff that was just last second that the Chaos Spawn just decided to do. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're sitting there getting some headshots from some Zangors, maybe a Rubik Marine shows up, you perfect dodge, but the Chaos Spawn was also doing an attack at the same time. Fencing weapons have been great for that. Fencing weapons have pretty much been my way to fight in between the lines, in a sense, I guess, because sometimes you can get frame trapped where it's like you parry, but you also have somebody, doing a unblockable attack. And even after the parry, or even after the execution, sometimes you will just get hit by an AoE neurothrope attack or something. So, yeah, that is what I call getting, like, frame locked, in a sense, into an attack. But, yeah, dude, actually, in the sense of hard stratagems, I have been having a lot more fun with them without the hidden conditions. Even the ridiculously hard ones, I think it's fun. It's kind of hard to random queue into it. So, I do think there's going to be a moment where I'm going to need some help from some of the better players in this community. So, yeah, I mean, let me know in the comments, actually, if you guys beat the daily reliquary where you had less health, double ammo, and only 1 armor. Let me know, because holy cow, man. I've been seeing a lot of stuff with that one. Like, I've seen good players, I've seen players who are way out of their league in that. And with random queues, you kind of get a mix of that. So, sometimes we would get pretty close. But, yeah, it truly does take only, like, one enraged Chaos Spawn. Dude, no, you can get one-shotted by a Chaos Spawn in general with that mode. Dude, yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the final boss fight a couple of times, but, yeah, it's still... we never had a tactical at the end of those boss fights, so it's been pretty rough. But, yeah, it's still... whatever. That's what makes the game fun right now, is that there are hard stratagems that are truly challenging. And then there's hard stratagems that are fun. Same goes for normal. Sometimes you can find normal stratagems that are really hard. So, yeah, I guess there's something for everyone. But as far as Chaos Spawn, they were recently adjusted, so definitely wanted to bring that conversation back here. Let me know how you guys feel about Chaos Spawn right now. Do you think they need a nerf? Is it the enrage mechanics specifically that make Chaos Spawn pretty hard matchups? But, yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. And thanks for watching.